Hello, welcome to this video. In this we'll be outlining the analysis tasks that we have set for you that we did face-to-face on Saturday, the 14th of November. But we're just going to be running through this for those of you who couldn't attend face-to-face. So if you go onto Blackboard, there are a number of folders, and each of the folders contains information on a task. All the tasks relate to the data set that we introduced on the Friday, which is about materialism, materialistic aspirations and well-being. So we're going to be using that data set to explore different ways of analysing the data, how we can test different hypotheses using that data. And one of the benefits of doing this is that it is actually a real world data set, so the data isn't going to behave in some of the ways that the textbooks suggest, perfect data. The examples that you always see, it's when you don't violate any assumptions, you don't have any problems, So this is real world data, so it will give you a sense of actually working with a completed, collected data set. So there's a lot of information in the data set, and then how you can tailor choosing the different variables in the data set to test different hypotheses, and also give you a sense of some of the kind of typical approaches that we take to handling the data and checking it. And also I'll show you a couple of different ways of looking at things like data assumption checking. So what I'd like you to do is, after this video, is to look at each of those folders. In each of the subfolders, you'll find an activity sheet which outlines the hypothesis or hypotheses that we're going to be testing. Your first job is to identify in those scenarios what is the independent variable or variables and what is the dependent variable or variables. And in the activity sheet, I've given you a couple of hints about which variables you might need to use, or that you might need to create your own, for example. So what you've got to do to start with is to really nail down what the IVs are, the DVs, and how they're measured. Within that as well, I've given you a walkthrough that you can use to conduct the analysis. So once you've identified which are your IVs and DVs, we know what hypothesis we're going to test, then you need to use the walkthrough to guide you through the steps to running that analysis with this new data set. Now, as in if you were doing this with a textbook, the example that is in the walkthrough is different to the one that you are, in a few key ways, to the one that you're actually going to be working on in these activities. But that's to give you practice in translating those steps, perhaps with a different example, but to the context that you need to work in for this analysis. So you would use that walkthrough to guide you through the steps. Once you've done that, there is a video in each subfolder where I show you how to actually do the analysis, so you can check that the steps you've taken are the correct ones, or that they are appropriate, and also to see in the interpreting folder there is also a copy of each of the outputs that we've produced, so again you can check that you've completed the steps in the analysis in the correct way. So make sure you save a copy of your own output for future reference, so you can compare that against the ones I've produced. Watch the video in the subfolder about running the analysis after you've had a go. And then what we'll be doing after all of that, once you've had a go, is that there will be another video like this one, wrapping it all up. So unpicking how you interpret different parts of the analysis and things you have to look out for, and conclusions you can draw, things that you have to be more tentative with. So the first activity is the mixed methods ANOVA that I'd like you to conduct, and that's in the folder Run ANOVA and MANOVA. Then the second activity is the two-way between groups MANOVA. Now when you're running through that activity, you're going to need to do something to your data set so that you can actually run the analyses as you need to. One of them is that you have to create an ID variable, and that's important, an important part of checking some of the data assumptions in your analysis. So if you look at your two-way between groups MANOVA walkthrough, you'll get a sense of when that ID variable is going to be needed. But you need to have a go at creating that. The other thing that you'll need to do is have a go at creating a categorical variable based on a median split for the perceived attainment of materialistic goals. So this can happen sometimes when you want to initially include a continuous variable in a type of analysis, but it doesn't behave in the way that you need it to. So I've had to do this when I was trying to do an ANOVA, and my continuous variable, the covariate, didn't satisfy the assumptions that are required of a covariate. So I had to turn it into a categorical variable. I used a median split and used it then as an independent variable, an additional independent variable instead, because that got around some of the issues with the original type of analysis I planned. So a median split is quite a common approach to doing that when you've got to categorize a continuous variable, but there are issues with it. So part of what we're going to be looking at today is some of the challenges that this kind of approach can take, and actually there are pros and cons of doing this, and so you should always think about how you manipulate your data very carefully. But we'll take you through, again, there's a video, have a go at doing the median split, and then there's a video where I show you how to do it, so you can try that out, and then have a go at the two-way between groups MANOVA, again following the walkthrough that's in the folder with it. And then after that, we've also got a regression task for you to do. And I think actually as you're working through this, you'll find that the regression is a fairly straightforward type of analysis in comparison to the number of things that you have to predetermine for an ANOVA and a MANOVA. So contrast these different approaches. And one of the benefits is that they're all based to different degrees on something called the general linear model. So actually, a lot of the ways you can check the assumptions, they can be similar. Also, in some instances, when you have a research question or a hypothesis, it may be possible to look at them either within the context of ANOVA or MANOVA or regression. It really depends on what you're trying to find out. So looking at these three things in combination, I think is really useful. Have a go at each of those. Watch the videos to check you've run the analysis appropriately, and check your output against the output I've produced in the interpreting the output folder. And then once you've done that, watch the video where I'll talk through interpreting the output. If you have any questions, please post them to the discussion forum on the Blackboard page, and I can reply to them. Okay, have a go at those activities, and then we'll talk you through the output all together. Okay, thank you.